Mình là Quang, là nhân viên tư vấn tại THEIELTSFOCUS FOCUS. Chào các bạn đến với tập 5 lớp thạc sĩ ngôn ngữ Anh. Môn hôm nay mình thuyết trình là môn thụ đắc ngôn ngữ thứ hai, Second Language Acquisition. Có trường dịch là đắc thụ ngôn ngữ 2 đúng không? Mình thì dịch đơn giản là tiếp thu ngôn ngữ thứ hai. Môn này thì mình học với tiến sĩ Lê Hùng Vũ. Học với thầy thì mình cũng được truyền cảm hứng rất là nhiều từ những cái câu chuyện du học tiến sĩ ở Gloucestershire. Các câu chuyện dạy tình nguyện của thầy, với lại thầy cũng học thạc sĩ ở nhân văn chắc cũng 20 năm về trước rồi các bạn. Cũng tầm cỡ đó thì có rất là nhiều kinh nghiệm đáng để học hỏi. Với lại mình cũng muốn cảm ơn Mr.Quang from the IELTS and TOEIC FOCUS for showing me how to create the slide effects. Với lại mục đích chính cũng là để lưu lại mấy cái slide effects này và để làm kỷ niệm. Before moving to the theory, I would like to briefly introduce the scholar behind it. Mr.Quang is the professor emerita at the Ontario Institute for Studies in Education, or OISE, at the University of Toronto. She is the world-renowned expert in second language acquisition, particularly known for her extensive research on bilingual education and immersion programs. In terms of academic leadership, she also served as the president of the American Association for Applied Linguistics in 1998. In the 1970s and 1980s, research in second language acquisition was largely dominated by Stephen Krashen's input hypothesis. This theory claimed that comprehensible input alone was sufficient for language acquisition. As a result, speaking and writing were seen mainly as outcomes of learning, rather than as mechanisms that actively contribute to learning. However, this input-centered view was challenged by Mr.Quang through her research on Canadian French immersion programs. She found that although learners were exposed to large amounts of comprehensible input and developed strong listening comprehension, their spoken and written production often lacked grammatical accuracy. In response, Swan argued that while input is essential, it is not sufficient for high levels of accuracy. She proposed that producing language itself plays a crucial role in learning. This idea formed the basis of output-based framework, including the output hypothesis, pushed output, and the noticing the gap function, which I will explain next. This table summarizes the key difference between input and output in terms of cognitive processing. When learners receive input, they mainly rely on semantic processing. In other words, they focus on meaning and understand messages through context. In contrast, when they are pushed toward syntactic processing, they must focus on grammar, structure, and form in order to express their meaning accurately and precisely. The output hypothesis was proposed by Mr.Quang. It states that producing the target language is not only a result of learning, but a mechanism of learning. The key contrast is between input and output. Input involves semantic processing. Learners focus on meaning and understanding through context. In contrast, output involves syntactic processing. Learners must pay attention to grammar and form. The key principle of the output hypothesis is that input and output play different roles. Input provides the data source for learning. Output pushes learners to process language more deeply and to express intended meanings precisely. Without output, learners may continue to rely on meaning, and grammatical accuracy may not develop fully. In terms of classroom application, instruction should not be limited to listening comprehension and reading comprehension. Teachers must provide opportunities for speaking and writing. An important point is that students do not need to feel fully ready. Output tasks should come before full mastery. This example is story retelling at the primary level. At the input stage, which involves listening and reading, the teacher reads a short story. Yesterday, Tom went to the park. He played football and ate an ice cream. With the support of pictures, gesture, and familiar words, children understand the meaning easily. There is no need to think about grammar, and past tense rules are not required for comprehension. At the output stage, which involves speaking, the teacher asks, "Can you tell me what Tom did yesterday?" The child attempts to answer. Tom go to the park. He played football. This is the key learning moment. The child realizes that something sounds not quite right, and that past tense forms are needed. For teacher support, the teacher models the correct form by saying, yes, Tom went to the park. He played football. As a result, the learner notices the grammar gap, and learning occurs through correction and comparison. This example shows clearly why the output hypothesis works. Listening and reading help learners understand meaning. Speaking and writing force learners to think about form. Making mistakes is a necessary part of learning. Output helps learners notice what they do not know yet. The key message is that learners do not need to feel ready before speaking. Speaking and writing are what make them ready. Pushed output was developed within Mr.Quang output-based framework. The key idea is that simply speaking is not enough. Learners must be pushed to produce language that is accurate, coherent, and appropriate. Pushed output occurs when communication breaks down, when the interlocutor does not understand, and when learners must express meaning more precisely. Pushed output offers several important benefits for language development. First, pushed output promotes grammatical accuracy and syntactic complexity. Second, it encourages hypothesis testing. Learners try out new forms and check whether the forms work. Third, it also supports automatization because existing knowledge becomes faster and more fluent. And finally, learning occurs through communication pressure, not rules. In terms of classroom application, teachers design tasks involving negotiation of meaning. In these tasks, learners must clarify, modify, and refine their output. These tasks force learners to go beyond minimal answers and to adjust language to be understood. To illustrate pushed output, let us look at a describe and draw activity for young learners. In step 1, students work in pairs. Student A has the picture. Student B has paper and a pencil and cannot see the picture. In step 2, which is initial output with unclear language, student A says, the boy is by the bank. Student B asks, which bank? The money bank or the river bank? As a result, communication breaks down. The sentence is grammatically correct, but the meaning is unclear. In step 3, which is negotiation of meaning and pushed output, student A must revise the message. Student A says, he is standing on the grass next to the river. As an outcome, the meaning becomes clear, student B understands, and the task can continue successfully. This activity shows clearly why pushed output helps children learn English. Learners realize that being understood matters. Learners learn that more precise language is needed. Learners practice better vocabulary, for example, river instead of bank, and clearer sentence structure. Improvement happens through communication, not through the grammar rules.